The rain lashed down, a relentless drumbeat against the worn roof of my beat-up Civic. Another Friday night, another stack of pizza boxes steaming on the passenger seat, and another delivery to the outskirts of town, the places where the streetlights died and the houses seemed to recede into the shadows. Tonight's address was particularly grim, 13 Blackwood Lane. I'd never been there before, but the digital map showed it nestled deep within a thick grove of ancient, twisted trees, far past the last glimmer of suburbia. A shiver, not entirely due to the cold, snaked down my spine.
I finally pulled up to a house that looked less like a home and more like a decaying monument. No lights. Just a gaping, black maw of a porch and a single, flickering bulb above a warped wooden door. I grabbed the 2 extra-large pepperoni pizzas, the scent of oregano suddenly cloying in the damp air, and jogged up the crumbling path. I pressed the doorbell. Nothing. I tried again, holding it down longer. A faint, almost imperceptible creak echoed from within. Pizza delivery. I called out, my voice a little too loud in the oppressive silence. The door slowly, agonizingly, swung inward. There was no one there. Just a hallway so dark it seemed to absorb the meager light from my phone's flashlight. A chill, colder than the rain, seeped from the open doorway. Hello. I tried again, my voice barely a whisper this time. Then I saw it. At the very end of the hallway, a flicker of movement. Not a person, but something else. A shadow that seemed too deep, too solid for mere darkness. It writhed, expanded, and then condensed into a vaguely humanoid shape. My heart hammered against my ribs. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to drop the pizzas and sprint back to my car. But something held me rooted to the spot, a morbid curiosity, perhaps, or the sheer terror of turning my back on whatever was in that house. A low, guttural sound emanated from the darkness, a sound that was less like a voice and more like rocks grinding together. The shadow shifted, and I thought I saw 2 pinpricks of crimson light deep within its depths. That'll be $25, I stammered, holding out the pizzas like a shield. The shadow lunged forward, not with speed, but with an unnatural, flowing motion. It didn't reach for the pizzas. Instead, it moved past them, past me, a chilling gust of air accompanying its passage. I felt a cold pressure against my arm, like a skeletal hand briefly brushing my skin, and then it was gone. I stood there, trembling, the pizzas still clutched in my hands. The hallway was empty. The door was still open. The only sound was the incessant drumming of the rain and the frantic thumping of my own heart. I stumbled back to my car, fumbling with the keys, and peeled out of Blackwood Lane, not daring to look back. I didn't care about the $25. I didn't care about the cold, uneaten pizzas. All I knew was that I would never, ever deliver to 13, Blackwood Lane again. And every time a pizza order came in, I found myself glancing at the address, a cold dread twisting in my gut, wondering if tonight would be the night I'd face a hunger no pizza could satisfy. So, it's a Tuesday, dead of winter, and the snow's coming down like tiny white anvils. My boss, Frank, shoves an order slip at me. Last one, kid. To the old Miller place on Elm Street. They just bought it, apparently. Now, the Miller place was infamous. Been empty for 30 years. Locals whispered about strange sounds, flickering lights, and a whole lot of weird vibes. I'd driven past it a million times, and it always gave me the creeps. It was one of those Victorian houses, all turrets and gingerbread, but painted a sickly, peeling gray. And the windows, they always looked like empty eyes staring out. I load up the large deep dish supreme and head out. The streetlights are fuzzy halos in the swirling snow. When I finally pull up to the Miller place, it's even more imposing than I remember. The porch light is busted, naturally, and the snow's piled up against the steps. I trudge up, pizza warming my hands, and knock. The sound echoes. I knock again, a little harder. Then, the door creaks open. Just a sliver. No one's there. Hello. I call out, my breath fogging in the cold air. Pizza delivery. A tiny voice, barely a whisper, floats out from the darkness inside. Come in. My blood ran cold. It sounded like a child. But, come in. Who tells a delivery driver to just walk into their house? Especially at night, in a creepy old mansion. My gut screamed no. But that tiny voice, it was unsettlingly polite, yet firm. And the cold was seeping into my bones. I pushed the door open a little wider. The entryway was grand, but dust motes danced in the faint light filtering from the snow outside. There were no lights on inside the house. Just leave it on the table, the voice whispered again, closer this time, but still unseen. I spotted an old, ornate wooden table against the far wall. I walked over, my footsteps muffled by a thick, unseen rug. I placed the pizza box down. That'll be $32.50, I said, trying to sound normal. Suddenly, I heard a rustling sound, like stiff fabric. And then, from under the table, a small figure emerged. It wasn't a child. Not really. It was a doll. Not a toy doll, either. This was like an antique doll, made of porcelain, with big, unblinking glass eyes and long, blonde curls. It was wearing a tiny, faded velvet dress. And it was moving. On its own. It slowly, deliberately, reached a tiny, porcelain hand into its dress pocket. And pulled out a roll of bills. Old bills, crinkly and yellowed. It counted them out with surprisingly nimble, jointed fingers. $32.50. Exact change. It held the money up to me. Its head tilted slightly. Those glass eyes seemed to bore into me, utterly devoid of emotion. I froze. My mind was reeling. A doll just paid me. A moving doll. I mechanically took the money, my fingers brushing its cold porcelain hand. The doll slowly retracted its arm, its head still tilted, watching me. I mumbled a thank you and backed away, my eyes glued to the thing. It stood perfectly still, staring at me until I was out the door. I practically sprinted back to my car, fumbling with the keys, and peeled out of that driveway. I never delivered to the Miller place again. And every time I see an old porcelain doll in an antique shop, a shiver runs down my spine. Because some customers, they're just not quite what they seem. It was a suffocatingly humid night in Bhopal, the kind where the air just hangs heavy and still. My shift was dragging, the heat making every pizza box feel heavier. Then, the order came in, a simple paneer tikka pizza, but the address. 17, Old Palace Road. Now, Old Palace Road isn't your average street. It's a decaying stretch that used to lead to some old, abandoned royal hunting lodges. Most of it's overgrown, swallowed by jungle, but a few crumbling structures remain, hidden behind ancient, gnarled trees. No one ever ordered from there. Ever. A cold knot formed in my stomach. I looked at the order again. Paid online. No cash exchange. Just deliver and go. My boss, oblivious, just shoved the box at me. Go on, last one. The streetlights faded quickly once I turned onto Old Palace Road. The canopy of trees above was so thick, it felt like midnight even though it was only 9 p.m. The air grew heavier, silent except for the buzzing of unseen insects. My scooter's headlight cut a lonely beam through the encroaching darkness. Finally, I spotted it. A gate, half devoured by rust, leading to a long, winding dirt path. And at the end of that path, barely visible through the dense foliage, was a house. It wasn't a grand palace. It was a smaller, more sinister structure, built of dark stone, with a roof that sagged like a tired old man. No lights anywhere. Just a suffocating darkness emanating from it. I killed my scooter's engine. The silence that descended was absolute. No crickets, no rustling leaves, just the frantic drumming of my own heart. I debated just turning around. But the pizza was paid for. And something, a morbid curiosity perhaps, held me there. I walked the path, the dirt crunching under my shoes. As I got closer, I started to hear it. Faint. Almost inaudible at first. Like dry leaves scuttling across a floor. But it wasn't leaves. It was, whispering. A multitude of whispers, tangled and indistinct, coming from the house. I reached the front door. It was heavy, made of dark, ancient wood, with an elaborate, tarnished brass knocker shaped like a grimacing face. The whispers grew louder, clearer now, a low, constant murmur from inside the house. It sounded like a crowd, but each voice was too soft, too close, too present. I swallowed hard and knocked. The sound was swallowed instantly by the oppressive silence of the house. The whispers, however, didn't stop. They seemed to swell, to become more insistent. Then, from behind the door, a single, clear voice emerged from the chorus of whispers. A child's voice. Young, innocent, yet utterly chilling. "It's here," the voice said. The door creaked open. Just a sliver. Enough for me to see a sliver of profound darkness inside. No light. Just that suffocating black. The whispering continued, swirling like unseen smoke. A small hand, impossibly pale and frail, reached out from the darkness. It was clutching a small, intricately carved wooden bird. The hand itself seemed to glow faintly in the gloom. It offered the bird to me. I froze. No money. No, thank you. Just this tiny, ancient bird. The pizza, I managed to stammer, holding out the box. The child's voice, still from the darkness, replied. "We don't need the pizza. We need you." My blood ran cold. Every hair on my body stood on end. The whispers around the child's voice intensified, forming a low, hungry hum. The air grew colder, heavy with something ancient and malevolent. I didn't think. I dropped the pizza box, the hot cardboard thudding on the stone step. I turned and ran. I ran faster than I've ever run in my life, stumbling on the uneven path, not daring to look back. I could feel the cold, humid air swirling behind me, hear the whispers, now a distorted chorus of chilling laughter, chasing me through the oppressive darkness of Old Palace Road. I jumped on my scooter, my hands trembling so violently I could barely start it. I sped away, leaving the house of whispers, and the abandoned pizza, behind. I quit the job the next day. I still live in Bhopal, but I avoid Old Palace Road like the plague. And sometimes, late at night, when the city is quiet, I swear I can still hear the faint, insidious sound of those whispers, just on the edge of hearing, calling to me from the darkness. It was a slow Tuesday night in suburban Ohio, past 11, and a cold, damp drizzle was turning the streets slick. My ancient Toyota Corolla was making a familiar whirring sound, almost a tired sigh. I was just about to call it a night when the last order popped up, a large pepperoni and mushroom, cash payment. The address, 27, Whisperwood Lane. Whisperwood Lane. I knew that place. It wasn't far, but it was one of those cul-de-sacs that branched off the main road, nestled deep within an older, heavily wooded neighborhood. The kind where the houses were big and set back, almost swallowed by ancient oak trees. And 27 Whisperwood, that house had always given me a weird vibe. It was always dark, always quiet, even when the neighbors had their lights blazing. Rumors floated around about it being empty for years, after some incident. But hey, pizza's gotta get delivered, right? I turned on to Whisperwood Lane. The streetlights were sparse, and the thick tree canopy overhead made it feel like driving through a tunnel of shadows. All the other houses were dark, their windows like vacant eyes. And then there was 27. No porch light. No lights in the windows. Just a deep, impenetrable blackness. I pulled up to the curb, killed the engine. The only sound was the gentle patter of rain and the drip from the trees. I grabbed the pizza bag, the pepperoni smell suddenly too strong, too cloying in the damp air. Walking up the driveway felt like wading through thick mud. The lawn was overgrown, the bushes untrimmed, clawing at the path. When I reached the front door, it was a heavy, dark wood, scarred and peeling. No doorbell. Just an old, rusty knocker. I rapped it once. The sound echoed eerily, swallowed by the silence of the night. I waited. Nothing. Just the rain. I knocked again, harder this time. And then I heard it. A faint, almost imperceptible scratching sound from inside. Like something small, delicate, was trying to dig its way through wood. Scratch. 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 Pizza delivery. I called out, my voice sounding thin and small. The scratching stopped. And then, a different sound. A low, soft thump from deep within the house, followed by a faint, rhythmic dragging noise. It sounded like something heavy being pulled across a floor. Slowly. Deliberately. A cold dread seeped into my bones. My eyes strained against the darkness of the house. I couldn't see anything through the windows, just my own reflection distorted by the black glass. The dragging sound stopped. And then, the doorknob slowly turned. The door opened just a sliver, a crack of absolute darkness. No light. No movement I could discern. Just that inky blackness. The air that wafted out was cold, stale, and smelled faintly of dust and something else, something faintly metallic, like old pennies. "Hello?" I whispered, clutching the pizza bag. A hand emerged from the crack. It was small, almost childlike, but unnervingly pale. And it was covered in dried, dark soil, as if it had just been digging. It wasn't holding money. Instead, it was holding a single, small, perfectly white bone. It was smooth and rounded, like a finger bone. It held the bone out to me, silently. My breath hitched. My mind screamed. I need $42, I stammered, my voice barely audible. The hand didn't move. The bone remained extended, an offering. And from the darkness beyond the crack, I heard it again. The dragging sound. Closer this time. And then, a soft, wet slurp. That was it. I didn't think. I dropped the pizza box right there on the porch, a silent offering to whatever was in that house. I turned and ran. I ran down that overgrown path, past the dark, gaping windows, and scrambled into my car. I fumbled with the keys, started the engine, and peeled out of Whisperwood Lane, my tires squealing in protest against the wet asphalt. I never looked back. I quit that job the next day. And every time I pass a dark, quiet house on a tree-lined street, I can still feel the chill of that bone in the air, and hear that soft, wet slurp, wondering what kind of hunger lives in the quiet cul-de-sacs. So, what do you think? Did that one get under your skin? The silence, the dark, and that bone, it's the kind of creepy that makes you wonder what people are really doing behind closed doors. Then hit the like button and subscribe so that you never miss chilling tales.